Hey, Hail Stalkers, thanks for joining us on this Saturday morning. We are doing a special live forecast this Saturday to talk about storms that are moving across Texas this afternoon. We do have a level 2, a slight risk for storms this afternoon. So put your weather questions and your comments in the comments section, and we'll get to those here in just a few minutes. Since I am doing this from home this morning, I don't have a producer with me, so I'm going to check my audio real quick while people join in here. Tell us where you're watching from. We'll talk about storms yesterday. We'll talk about what to expect today, the biggest hazards, the hour-by-hour timeline. We've got some city-specific forecasts as well. All right, audio sounds good, which means we can go ahead and get started. Okay, let's take a look at what we saw yesterday. So yesterday evening across Texas, you can see those storms. Just kind of rewind this. You see those storms just fire up on the west side of the state. You know, they were really, really impressive, warned for hail down to the southwest, and then it turned into a wind threat as we shifted into the late night hours. By about 7 o'clock last night, we saw a tornado warning just outside of Fort Worth, Texas. So we knew that this line of storms had not only high wind and heavy rain, but also the potential to spin up several tornadoes. You can see that we did get just a little notch just down to the southwest of the city of Fort Worth. And we were live as we warned everyone that we should, take this seriously and take this very seriously because we could have embedded tornadoes in this line of storms. And then we continued to watch this line of storms go through Fort Worth and Dallas with heavy rain and high wind in this area. So we were live for all of that last night, but moving on to what you can expect today. This low pressure system that is sitting right here across the western side of Dallas at the moment is going to continue to move to the east. Now, this is going to help to spur up another round of storms later on this afternoon. So that line of storms that you see that's going across Louisiana right now, that is what we got yesterday across Texas. So that is round 1. And then we're going to see round 2 later on this afternoon. We've got a lot of rain across northern Oklahoma and southern Kansas as well, keeping us very, very rainy and keeping that flash flood issue or concern prevalent through the afternoon and evening hours today. Let's go ahead and talk about severe weather. We're going to get right into it. We're not going to take too long on this forecast, so get your weather questions in now. Let's go ahead and zoom down into Texas. So this is our next area that we're watching for severe weather today. Anywhere from Dallas to Austin into San Antonio and Houston could see that large hail, high wind, and that tornado threat, which we'll break down a little bit more here. But you can see from our significant hail model right here, this is whenever we really start to see things get interesting. We've got some of those deeper orange colors in here, just barely trying to break through, especially down in places like San Antonio, Austin, and maybe even Dallas. Now, as we get into the later night hours, I'm not very sure that we're going to get hail in Houston, and we'll talk about why that is here in just a few minutes. We've got a reason for that. But places that I do expect for hail today is places like Dallas and Austin. Now, I have highlighted Austin as the best chance to get large hail. Dallas, you are right on that line of quarter to maybe ping pong ball size hail. Right in the middle there, if you could get a really good isolated storm, you're most likely going to get some larger hail sizes. If you get a cluster of storms or a line of storms, your hail sizes are going to be smaller and it's going to be more of a wind threat. So there's not a ton of confidence on exactly what's going to happen at this point, but we do know the farther south that you go into places like Austin, that's going to be the better chance for hail. San Antonio, looks like a lot of these storms are going to the north of you, which we'll talk about here in just a few minutes as well. And then Houston, we're going to see that shift very similar to what we did yesterday from a hail to a wind threat. So let's go ahead and kind of look at this. Just south of I-20 in Dallas, that's going to be the bigger hail threat. You go to the north of I-20, smaller hailstones likely. Into Austin, I think that you have a really good chance for larger hail. Most hail sizes today will be golf ball size or smaller. However, I do think some isolated 2-inch, maybe 2.5 inches could squeeze out there. It's going to be isolated, but some of those larger hailstones are not out of the question today. Taking a look at that tornado forecast for today as well, I mentioned that we're going to see a shift from a hail threat in places like San Antonio, Austin, and Dallas. As we continue through the late night hours, we shift to more of a wind and tornado threat. So that's what we see in places like Houston and Lafayette, Louisiana. Moving on now, let's go ahead and break down that wind and then that timeline here. So we do have a high wind risk all day long. Any one of these storms could produce up to 60, maybe 65, 70 mile per hour wind gusts, but I don't expect it to be as big as a high wind threat as we saw yesterday. National forecast here, lots of rain, a big soaker across a good portion of the country today. But zooming down into where we're expecting that severe weather, let's talk about timeline. That first round of storms, it's already passed, right? Some of us are getting a drier morning. Some of us still have a few lingering showers out there. Nothing severe is expected until early this afternoon. That's whenever we start to see these isolated storms pop up right along I-35, if not just a little bit to the west of 35. So let me rewind this radar and show you exactly where we're expecting storm formation. You can see maybe just to the north of San Antonio, right around the Austin area, and a few more showers and storms up in Dallas. This is your hail threat, right? Through the peak heating of the day, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock into the evening, that's your hail threat. We see a pretty clear shift to a more wind and tornado threat as we head into the evening hours. So we're talking about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock. What happens at this time? The sun goes down. It's dark. We're talking about potential for nocturnal, nighttime tornadoes, which are some of the most dangerous tornadoes. So this is what we expect as we head into places like Houston and Louisiana. You can see that line of storms moving through the late night and overnight hours. We'll show you just one more model here. So what you're looking at right now is the NAM 3K, but on big weather days like this, I like to show two different models just in case there's any sort of disagreements with the models. From what I can tell this morning, there's a lot of agreeing models here. We're going to see storms form just to the west of 35, continuing to track to the east as we head into the late night hours into places like Houston later on as these storms congeal into a line of storms. So there you go. There's your forecast for today. Let's break down city by city. So this is always why we ask you to put your city in the chat, because we can tailor the forecast to where you guys are at. Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, Houston. We've got people in here from Columbus, Ohio. Michael's saying, send the hail to Casey. Yeah, Kansas City today, lots of rain, probably no hail. Very, very, very low hail risk. We're not going to hype it for you guys. We're going to keep it very, very plain and simple. We're going to keep it very, very realistic. We don't want to hype it for you guys. But let's go ahead and get into Dallas timeline here. Alrighty, so you can see this is the hail risk in the hail, wind, and tornado threat in Dallas today. I think that wind will probably be more of a widespread threat. So we're talking about 60 to maybe 65 mile per hour wind gusts here. The largest hail size I expect to see in Dallas is golf ball size hail. However, you're most likely to see, and let me go through this graphic here. There's your timeline, 4 to 10 o'clock. Now let me break down your hail forecast. So while I said golf ball size hail will be the biggest hailstone, you've got to have the perfect storm for that to happen. I think you'll probably have a better chance to see that 1-inch size hail, quarter size hail I got at a level 2 risk, golf ball size hail at a level 1, or maybe like a 0.5 risk, less than level 1. And again, timeline for Dallas, 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. The Great is asking about Fort Worth, far north Fort Worth. Yeah, so I'd keep your timeline about the same, about 4 o'clock to 10 o'clock this evening. And again, that's for all hazards, that very low tornado risk, especially the farther north that you go. Your hail risk is probably going to be farther down to the south of I-20, and then high wind potential for everyone. Moving on to San Antonio now. We had a lot of questions about San Antonio yesterday. So your chance for large hail, I put ping pong ball size hail. I think that we've got smaller hail as we go down to the south of San Antonio. I put that in a pretty low risk today. Your biggest thing, your biggest concern is going to be that wind risk, and then a very low risk for tornadoes as well. As we go through this timeline here, it looks like most of these storms are trying to go to the north of San Antonio. That doesn't mean that if they pivot just a few miles south, they won't hit the city. But a lot of these models want to bring storms mainly to the north into places like Austin. So here's your timeline, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. for San Antonio today. Your maximum hail size, ping pong ball size hail, but a very low chance for that. I think that you're more likely to see quarters in this area. Again, unless you just get the perfect storm, then we could get up to ping pong, maybe golf balls. 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. for San Antonio, moving into Houston now. We'll go to Austin last because it's the best chance for hail today, so we're saving the best for last in Austin. Chance for hail in Houston, I kept that low just because we're kind of switching from that hail to that wind threat as we head into the late night hours in Houston. Your timeline for Houston is 6 p.m. to 1 a.m., so it's an overnight system that's coming into Houston, most likely coming in after the sun has gone down and it's already dark. Your chance for strong wind. Now, I have ramped that up. I've said that we have a really good chance for strong wind in Houston today, at least 60 miles an hour, if not stronger. And then your chance for tornadoes, we put that at a level 2 on a scale of 5. So some isolated embedded tornadoes in this area are absolutely possible. If you watched our live coverage last night, and I see a lot of similar names in the chats from what we saw last night, if you watched that live coverage last night, you remember us talking about these little notches that will pick up in a line of storms. That's an embedded tornado or a spin-up tornado. That's kind of what we're watching for once again in Houston tonight. So it's going to be very, very fast moving. Basically what happens is these storms, these tornadoes, they'll drop down, they'll pick back up. They'll drop down, they'll pick back up. So your warning times could be pretty quick this evening. Just a little heads up on that. Again, 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. for Houston. And last but not least, let's go into Austin now. Oh, here's your hail risk for Houston. We said that your chance for 1-inch hail, level 2, your chance for anything larger than the size of a golf ball, level 1. Pretty low chance there. Got my coffee this morning. We're not on the green screen this morning. Oftentimes we are, but not on Saturdays. On Saturdays, I am at home with my coffee. Let's talk about Austin now. Austin hail size today. I put you guys at the largest hail expected today in Austin, Texas at 2 inches for your maximum hail size. Now it's a low risk for 2-inch size hail. Most likely you'll probably be closer to that quarter, $half, maybe even up to ping pong ball size hail today. I have pretty high hopes that Austin will get some sort of hail today. So I left you guys at a level 2, maybe even a level 3 out of 5 for your risk for hail today. Chance for 1-inch hail, pretty good. Chance for larger than 1-inch hail, pretty good today. I'm pretty impressed with the hail risk for Austin, so we'll have to see what happens. But I think if I were to bet on a city to get hit with hail today, that would be the city I would be putting my money on. There's your forecast. Your timeline for Austin, 2 to 7 o'clock tonight. So it's going to be an evening timeline here, 2 p.m. to 7 o'clock, just before sundown. And again, that's our power hour, right? Right between the peak heating of the day, 2 o'clock to 7 o'clock. By the time the sun goes down, we see that shift usually into more of a wind and tornado threat. Questions? A YouTube question. Did nothing severe happen in Fort Worth yesterday, out of town, and didn't see anything, but do see reports of a tornado? So this is a great question that a lot of people brought up last night as well. So meteorologist Michaela Smith and myself, we were live while we saw that potential tornado in southwestern Fort Worth. Now, we had conversations this morning. Was it an actual tornado? Did it touch down? And what we're seeing from people in Fort Worth is there are a lot of damaged pictures out there. A lot of people have been posting those pictures of signs down, of things twisted up. So potentially a very, very brief tornado happened on the southwest side of Fort Worth yesterday. I think the confusion online is that it wasn't warned. There was no tornado warning on it, so it led to a lot of confusion. The National Weather Service did say that they're looking for ground truth, so they're looking for those pictures. They're looking for the evidence that there could have been a tornado. If there was one, it would have been pretty brief. But we were warning people. We were saying, go ahead and act as if this was a tornado warning. Take your precautions, find your safe space, because we think that there could be something on the ground. So I see your confusion with what happened in Fort Worth. What did happen, what we do know for sure, is that we had high winds in Fort Worth. I didn't see any hail reports. I really wasn't expecting a ton of hail at that time of night, and heavy, heavy rain in Fort Worth. So that's what we know did happen, but the potential for a spin-up tornado, absolutely possible. Nick asks, do you think anything will hit Tennessee anytime soon? Well, Nick, you guys have some rain today, but the likelihood for anything severe is looking very, very low. Your severe risk for today and tomorrow is going to be more south of you guys, like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and then farther out to the east by Sunday. So very, very low chance for anything to hit Tennessee, other than just showers. Here's a look at your severe risks. We've got a slight risk today, highlighted there in yellow. That's a level 2 on a scale of 5 for Houston and just outside of New Orleans. Tomorrow, we have a marginal risk for New Orleans, the southern side of Mississippi, Alabama, and the panhandle of Florida. And then we don't have a risk on Monday. So we don't have a risk yet on Monday, maybe I should say. We can look at some long-term models here. I don't have too much time left this morning, but let's see. We can look at some long-term models. All right. So oftentimes what we like to do as meteorologists is we like to take a look at the upper winds, the winds in the upper level of the atmosphere. So the higher you go up in the atmosphere, the stronger those winds are. And we like to look at something called the jet stream, which is basically like a river of really strong winds. That's how we like to describe it. Obviously, you understand how a river flows. Very similar to that, we have things that are flowing above us in the atmosphere, and these high winds will often tell us about long-term impacts or long-term potential severe weather. So right now, obviously, you can see that low pressure system that's sitting over the southern plains that's impacting us and bringing us some severe weather down to the southeastern portion of Texas, Louisiana, and then as we head into the rest of Sunday, into places like Mississippi and Alabama. Whenever we see, especially a low, and then on the bottom, or I guess, southeast side of that low, we have these really strong winds. We know that we're going to have some sort of severe weather, especially if we can get moisture at the surface. So that's what we're looking for long term. Let's go ahead and let's move into Monday. We've got a little dig in the ridge here, trying to create something on Monday. We'll have to see if anything comes of that. There's a low pressure system, very nice low pressure system, coming in by early on Wednesday. And that could bring maybe some moisture up the coast, maybe some sort of activity down to the south as well. So we've got another low pressure system that we're going to see on the East Coast by Wednesday and Thursday. That looks very interesting to me, so we have to keep an eye on that. If that moves a little bit farther to the north, I could see that impacting Tennessee. So Nick, there is your answer for Tennessee. Keep an eye on the end of this week. Let's see. Can you check Columbus, Ohio? I was going to make sure that the National Weather Service. Oh, we didn't talk about flash flooding. Alrighty. We do have a flash flood threat today, and we'll get to that, and then we'll get to Columbus, Ohio just after that. Just making sure I didn't miss anything today. So here you go. Here's your flash flood threat. Let me see if I can move out of the way. There you go. Highlighted there in yellow, there is your scattered flash flooding. Tomorrow, a level 1 risk. So really today is going to be the biggest threat for flash floods. Alrighty, moving back, let's talk about Columbus, Ohio here. The question was, I'm making sure I'm not missing anything. Going to check y'all's National Weather Service. Nope, not missing anything there. So if we go down, all right, temperatures in Ohio today topping out in the 50s. It's a little chilly today. You may have some showers every now and then, but for the most part, you're going to stay dry today. So a chilly and mostly dry day in Columbus. Great questions. And I think those are all of your questions on this Saturday morning. Again, I know we've talked about a few other things today, but just make sure that you remember we have severe weather expected through this afternoon and this evening and the overnight hours, depending on where you live. So what we're watching for here is we're watching for that hail, wind, and tornado threat across Texas, mainly on the east side of Texas. That tornado threat does, however, extend into the southern side of Louisiana, especially through the late night hours. There's your tornado, your wind threat, and we'll get to your hail threat real quick as well. There you go. So, of course, just similar to yesterday, our meteorologist at Hail Trace will be watching it. If you are interested in a hail, wind, or tornado map, head over to hailtrace.com. You can find all of the information about how to sign up for a tornado map, wind map, hail map. Be ready. Have your subscription before the storm so that after the storm, you're not panicking, saying, oh no, what do I do? Make sure that you give us a call today to get set up for that. If you're not already, follow us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. We are very active on there, especially with our newest meteorologist, Michaela Smith. She has been very, very helpful with getting things out very timely onto those platforms. So we will keep an eye on storms today. As always, send us your weather pictures as storms come your way. If you can safely take those pictures, send them our way as well. Thanks for joining us now. One last question. Okay. One last question here. My grandma lives in Joshua, Texas. Can you take a look at her forecast today? I can, but I will say you're testing my geography knowledge. I don't know where Joshua is, so let me look that up for you. Just outside of Fort Worth, so just to the south of Fort Worth. It's funny that you ask about Joshua because we had a question about Godly, Texas yesterday, and they're like sister cities. They're right next to each other. So I know exactly where this is. Let's go ahead and let's talk about this forecast very, very quick. Here's the good news. Joshua, Texas is out of the tornado risk. That doesn't mean that there's no risk. It means that it's very, very low today for the potential of a tornado. You could see some high winds in Joshua, Texas today. So we're talking about 60, 65 mile per hour wind gusts. This is pretty normal for your typical severe thunderstorm. What I would really be keeping an eye on today is that hail threat, especially because she's on the south side of Fort Worth. As you go farther down to the south in DFW, you're going to have a better chance for large hail. So we're talking about potential ping pong to maybe golf ball size hailstones in this area. Let's go ahead and take a look at the DFW metro timeline here. So Joshua, Texas is going to be in a very similar timeline here where we're talking about storms coming in around 4 to 10 o'clock this evening. So your timeline is right in the middle, if not the later portion of the day. Your max hail size here, golf ball size hail, but I think it's a low risk to get golf ball size hail. Better chance to get some of those smaller hailstones like quarters, maybe even $50 ping pong ball size hailstones. So we'll keep an eye on that today. There's your timeline. There's the storms coming in. And then you'll most likely be dry through the overnight hours. Not too worried about those overnight storms. Strong winds, we talked about this. Winds will probably be the most widespread threat in this area, 60 mile per hour wind speeds, and a very low chance for tornadoes. So the main thing to tell Grandma is make sure that she is watching the weather between 4 and 10 o'clock this evening. All right, well, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you hopping on here. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and we will, of course, be watching those storms through the overnight hours tonight. We've got meteorologists staffed 24/7 here at Hail Trace, so all maps will be updated as we head into the overnight hours. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you back here, same time, same place, for your forecast on Monday. It'll be Monday at noon. That'll be your next forecast. We'll see you then.